This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. I'm very excited today. Again, as always, I'm always excited to do this, but I'm excited to be with you. My purpose in life is to get good thinking, help build good thinking, build good leaders, teams, coach people towards their best and their goals. And today, what we're going to talk about is so important, and it's called Busting the Cyclone. Busting the Cyclone. And the reason I chose that title is because it occurred to me recently that cycles can be very good or very bad. If a cycle gets too much force, too much speed going on, they can be extremely destructive. And if you think about it, a tornado, a hurricane, a cyclone, right? Cycle is right at the root of the word cyclone. Those things have so much potential energy in them and potentially destructive energy because of the power of that cycle that they're moving in. And I realized as I look through the news, and I don't spend much time on the news, trust me, about 3 to 5 minutes a day is about all I can take, but just to know what's going on, because I hear lots about it through other channels of social media too. But I realized that there's a cycle that goes on with us, and it doesn't have to be the news, but that's a main input from it. And what happens is we behold something negative, right? Or something difficult, something unfair, unjust, troublesome. And now we all know that what we behold, we become, right? What we behold, we become. Whatever we dwell on, whatever we focus on, we're going to become more and more like that. We've all probably heard that, when people are married for many, many years, they start looking alike. Well, they've been beholding each other for so many years. Now they're becoming each other in so many ways, appearance. But when we behold these constantly difficult things, right? When we behold those, we put in that. And then what happens is we think on that. So we behold, we think on, and then as we think on those difficult things, often we start to feel negative. We start to feel anxious. We start to feel depressed, maybe. We start to feel maybe hopeless, maybe powerless to do any good in the midst of all these big things that seem to be going wrong and that are coming at us, right? And then when we get around other people, what do? We talk about the difficulties. We talk about the negative things that we have been beholding, the difficult things. So I realized and then what happens when we get back home or off the phone or off the, video, whatever it is we're on with our friends, however we're communicating. When we get back, then what do? We turn on the TV and we watch more bad stuff, right? Very, very likely. And then when we do that, then we start thinking about it. We start feeling the bad feelings again. We get around to other people. We start talking about the bad. And it just goes round and round and round and round. And it builds power. It builds momentum. It builds negativity. It builds a whole lot of things we don't want in our lives as we dwell on those things. So what I want to do today is just talk for a few minutes and share some ideas about busting that cyclone. We need to break that, because what happens is in our brains, what happens is whatever we dwell on, we start forming neural networks, right, that host those thoughts, those ideas. And then that leads to those feelings. So we start developing those neural networks. And what we want to do is build new neural networks, the more positive, hope-filled neural network. And how do we do that? I want to give just a few things today, a few examples of how do we do that, and things that I've seen work. Not it hasn't changed the world, but it's changed some lives, and it's changed my wife's life, my life. We're working on positive. One of them, this is super simple. Do something to brighten somebody else's day. You can't brighten somebody else's day without your day getting brighter. And what are you doing when you're brightening somebody else's day? You're focused on what you're doing for them, right? You're not focused on the bad news. You're focused on doing something for them that's going to be good, and you're going to feel better. And then you're going to have a good story to tell. Last month, the month of June, was gardenia blossom month. Okay, if you're into flowers at all, my wife and I, we bought several gardenia plants a couple of years ago. We found a good deal on them, and we planted them. And last year they were okay, but they weren't so much. But this year, boy, in June, man, we had for several weeks there, we just had gardenias pouring off those bushes. And so one day my wife went out and she was gone for a little bit. And I was like, what's happening, honey? When she came back in, and she had taken these little vases. We had gotten some little colored vases, very, very cute. They were at a yard sale and they were super inexpensive. I don't know, maybe they were 25, 50 cents a piece. So we had bought several of them. She had taken those little vases, washed them up, and cut gardenias, one or two gardenias a piece, and put them in the vase with a little bit of water, and taken them and set them on uh, the neighbors' porches. It was plural. It was more than one. And she put them on several of those. And, that has gone a long way towards brightening things with the neighbors. Some of them that we never really engage much. Now, they used to just jump out of the car, go straight in the house. Now they get out, they wave, they call us by name. Some of them come over and chat. We've had several of them coming over, standing on the sidewalk and the driveway and chatting with. So, hey, we opened up these new connections over something as simple as a gardenia and a little, 50-cent vase, just by reaching out. And it brightened them and it showed them, hey, somebody's thinking about me. Yeah, the world may be a tough place right now, but somebody's thinking about me. Somebody wants to brighten my day. Somebody cares. They added a little bit of value and a little bit of brightness to my day. And then now, as that's happened, it's been like, wow, things just got transformed in our neighborhood and in some relationship with people. They're better than they were just by a little act of thinking about somebody else. Now, another thing that I've done that's like really fun. I love this. And that is, I can post all kinds of things on Facebook, right? And they usually get a little bit of traction, but I tell you, the ones that get the most traction and the response are when I ask good questions and other people get to share something about themselves. And I just jotted down a couple of the questions that I've asked recently that had great response. One of them is, what is your favorite way to show love? And wow, here's all these people. I mean, page after page of comments. People responding back going, oh wow, I love to bake for people. I love to feed them. I love to listen. I love to spend time. I love all these different ways of showing love. And I'm like, not only are those great ideas about how we can show love, depending on what our love language is, but it's just so nice to hear that. And now here's this whole community of people thinking about how they like to show love. Now, which do you think is better, sitting and watching bad news or thinking about bad news or feeling bad because of the bad news? Which do you think is better, that or getting a discussion group going on, hey, what's your favorite way to show love? Right? Another one that I asked is, this was over Father's Day weekend. What's your favorite memory of your father or someone who acted as a father to you? Unfortunately, I had to modify the question a little bit because I know that not all fathers were really great fathers, but that's why I wanted, somebody else who's acted as a father, who's really stepped into that role. Again, page after page after page of all of these wonderful memories and experiences. And boy, I mean, just putting it into my own mind, not alone helping everybody else put it into theirs, and we can all see each other. It's just amazing. So doing that, and I ask, what are some of your most joyful memories in life? And I've got a friend, she's the executive director at an assisted living, and she does this with her team. She just gets them talking because it helps them get to know each other, and it helps them think about each other, and it helps them appreciate each other. She told me one time she'll ask a question that is simple as, hey, what's your favorite candy bar? You a Snickers or a Mars person, and just doing that, it just lightens the atmosphere. It lifts people up. It gets them thinking about good things about each other and identifying or laughing. A lot of times when I ask questions in workshops, I like to always have a discussion time and a question time. And when we get those workshops going and people start sharing their stories with each other, boy, it's usually within the first minute. They're the biggest, brightest, most genuine smiles, best laughter, identifying with each other and common experiences that they didn't know they had in common, right? So those are just a couple of things. One of the others is, as you probably surmised already, turn off the news. Good heavens, how much of that do you need in your mind? I mean, once you know what's happened, now you know what to pray about, but then go out and do something. Too much of the news is immobilizing. It's like Mother Teresa once said. She said, if I ever stopped and looked at all the need around me, it would overwhelm me to the point of paralysis, and I would do nothing. She said, I just stop and think about, what resources do I have? Who's the next child in front of me that needs some help? And then I go out and I do what I can to help that child. And then if there's still some resources left and there's another child, I help another one. And I think we all have a pretty good idea how many children she helped. It was a lot. I don't know the number, but it was a lot over the course of her life. And what a legacy she left. I was watching a travel documentary the other day, and this was over in Europe somewhere. They had a statue. I think it was in Albania, actually, because Mother Teresa was from Albania. They had a statue to Mother Teresa, and I noticed, wow, nobody's trying to tear down her statues, because that's the kind of heart that sees and adds value to people. And that's the kind of things we want to dwell on. So hopefully as we do these things, and there's a lot of different ways. One other way, I'll leave you with this one. One other way to help ourselves a lot, there's Solomon wrote that a merry heart does good like a medicine. Well, so does a grateful heart. A grateful heart does good like a medicine. Let me explain to you how. I've been studying brain health. I'm getting a coaching certificate through that, so I'm in the process of learning a lot. And what I learned yesterday that really stood out to me is cerebellum. Okay, that's the little part right on the back of our brain, right? It doesn't look like the rest. It has the smooth grooves in it. It's not the kind of cauliflower looking part. But the cerebellum is super important. It's only 10% of our brain. If you look at the total brain size, it's only 10% of it. But it has 50% of the neurons. Okay, that makes it important. Okay, and I saw two brains. I was looking at two brains, and the first one is a brain that was filmed during an episode of gratitude. That cerebellum is lit up. It's lit up. Okay, and then the other image was one that was with negativity, with some hateful thoughts. That cerebellum is shut down. There is no activity there. So let me just say this. If that's 50%, if the cerebellum contains 50% of the neurons and negative, bad thoughts, shut it down, you just lost half of your brain power. And it's responsible for motor skills. I wonder if and some other things too. But I wonder how many people who get in accidents maybe were mad at the time, shut down that motor skill. Have you ever met any people and they're just like always in a bad mood and all these bad things always happen to them? Maybe that's what happened. I remember Jim Rohn. He's one of my mentors. I love that guy. He's deceased now, but he's a brilliant man. But he was at a conference one time and a man came up to him afterwards. He just started listing all these negatives, things that just keep happening to him. And he was dwelling on the negative. And he said, why does all this just happen to me? And Jim said, I don't really know the answer to that. All I know is that things like that always happen to people like you, right? Law of magnetism, we tend to attract to us what we put out there and what we dwell on. So if we're dwelling on the good and we're lighting up 50% of the neurons in our brain, if we're engaging them and they're